center for the strawberries finished, and I think I'll leave the Kala Chakra initiation streaming from here. Okay, from here. No. Alright, I'm going to carry on from here. Take my voice down.
Reality is such that they do not exist independently or objectively. Similarly, it is the case with your body when you say, "This is my body." Where is this, my body? Is your body on the top of your head, or is your body on the sole of your feet? When you split the body into various parts, you won't find it. The fact of the matter is that the whole and the parts are interrelated. They are dependent on each other. The whole, which is dependent upon the part, when you search the whole, which is independent on the part, you will not find it. This is also the case with your mind, which, even though it is non-physical, has its continuity. But when you split the various parts of that continuity of that mind, you will not be able to find it. This ability through investigation does not mean the total non-existence of the person. Because if you say that the person does not exist at all, that directly contradicts your day-to-day experience. You know that you're alive, you know that you are breathing, and you know that you're existing. But the manner of existence is such that you do not find it when you search for it. So there is only a conventional existence, a nominal existence.
Nobel Prize-winning research uncovers a simple way to reignite eyesight, with a few simple natural ingredients. If you wear glasses or contacts, you must see this. An award-winning doctor reveals an astonishing, natural way to reclaim the 20/20 vision you were born with in record time. Did you know? Vision problems have absolutely nothing to do with your eyes. A shocking link between the eyes and the brain was discovered by researchers in Washington. These studies show that your eyes will deteriorate with each passing year, even if you wear glasses or lenses. And that's because they don't do a single thing to actually improve the way your eyes interact with the brain. This well-known doctor from Japan was forced out of his practice after he unveiled a billion-dollar secret. He wasn't supposed to know the real reason why you are losing your vision. And a simple trick to reverse your vision problems as you sleep, no matter what your age or current condition. This secret habit is so amazing, it sent the entire eye care industry back to the drawing board. 40,000 people are already doing it and gave up their glasses in less than a month. It's so powerful because it targets the single root cause of vision loss. Stop everything you're doing and watch a short free special video this doctor created. Remember, this has nothing to do with meds, surgery, or expensive treatments. And it works for all types of vision problems. Cataracts, diabetic retinopathy, macular degeneration, glaucoma, blurred vision, you name it. Caroline had been wearing glasses for 28 years. She had tired and blurry eyes. Her sight seemed to be getting worse. She had tried every known remedy, which resulted in more money down the drain. 2 weeks after doing this 6 seconds habit, her eye strain vanished and her focus improved. So click the link below and watch the short free eye-opening video now, before it's gone for good.
Imagine what would happen.
Yeah, we just had a black screen there, so we'll start again. We were on initiation part 5.
그냥 뛰고 있어. 뭐지 했어. 네, 제베고 잡을 풍부르라 변호게 근데 정보도 자주는 근데 정보도 도저도 조는 좀 되는데 삼모 나와 시제 제제 남자지 등에 저가 여보 조도 양대제 전조 삼보삼 신바 삼모 저보 니라 남바라 다신 공부 가고 대다 라야 장신제 동바 남바라 다오 대네 산제지 드 장조 삼바 전부 방보 자르세 원초란 되게 제 매소 리지 가라라 자라제 바르도 전부 삼모 저보 더바데 세다 라와라자 되게 제 매와다 장조 삼바 학과 자레스 원조게 사단 담바 자란도데 볼라 내게 자레보 지게보 모 간라라 셰르게 바르다 점보 삼모 잡아 디더런 넘버로 따와라 자데 공부하고 되다 라야 라신제 동바 넘바 양다와 제소 다오 소동보 동바니 엘레야야 마예노 데잔도 소도 도제도 남바라 저보노 동보 저르보 데드라 저담제 동관니데스 마제보 망가보 즈마나보 즈마다 저와메보 카와메보 데드라베다 동관지나 수베 저와베 도제베 미미 나와메 나메 제메 리미 Rame Rame Rejame Shemedo Mege Kame Bane Ye Kame Gashime Gaye Rebe Badaya Medo Tejado Dunga Wado Gunjo Wado Gobada Lame Yesheme Tobame Madobaya Medo Sharebo 신도 되네 냥은 되베 타라제도 대손도 남보라 주베 산제도 제자 세다제 바르도 심보라 되네 라나마 모보로 조보 산제소 다다 베나 셰도제 바르도 심뱅아 지과 심뱅 라나 메뱅아 미냐바다 냠뱅아 템바라 셰보라 샤데 하르도 세면 하메바 때야다 가데 바라 송거데 뭐지 에르고 전도 하르도 sembo 삼모라 로버죠 좀 된데 띵년제 데레젠데 전조 삼모 정보 방모제 원조나 하다 메다 라마 yen다 저서 제베 제데 예란데 점데 제 송고로 버로도 년데 쇼워서노 근신이지 가연당 졸라 펜바샤나 람신이지 지데 된도 자와 가다 양다 덴베 토노 남보 근데 나서 년데 장조 선배 소제 상제진이 염달라 장선로 관계 된신 저와 조 각과 매바 제매바 차바 매바 당매바 오매바 저 다대 되면 된신매 저번이시 저배 상제 만남제 담바달라 차선로 관계로를 되냐되냐다 남다다 제냐된 지지지지니게도 간다세베 자라마데 멘도 동에 제세 로조글로 모제다세 야마도제 도도라 제로 녀모녀노 레제 자로 제제 마레메제 동에 요고 제니 제세 데네 당신 서주 타제 연데 레조 제세도 조라조다 주니 젠데 달르메세 잠베양론 제대 주제 여러 세제 달르 데모 멤버 가다 된지 쇼로도 뭐에 로즈 법에 나와서도 대안이네 예 가보실지 바로도 침바이니 시진 년나봐서 리메 나도 유전자 하고 싫어진 거 나라리야 아니 아자리 리기포모 강하라 싫어지 파도 좀 상문 잡아 내가 늦었나 뭐 따왔을 때 풍문가 뭐 다죠 신기 동반나 뭐 양다고 쳐서 따오 속 동반이 속소 속le 동반이 샤마이 동반이 레자 속셴 마이노 셴니
In the Heart Sutra, it is mentioned that the sons and daughters of the lineage should see the form as emptiness. The followers addressed by the word, the sons and daughters of the lineage, are required to possess the Buddha potential that exists within the mind of all sentient beings, even we ordinary beings, right now, within the bondage of samsara, or the cycle of existence. Even in our case, we have the Buddha potential within us.
가서를 전신이 동배 최지 인수 찍도 되네. 지신이 매치다. 너나이네 정말 새도록 나와도 내게 그게 리기야바.
To say that within us we have this naturally abiding lineage refers to the inherent existence of the mind. Thus, this lineage of the Buddha refers to all of us. Using this lineage which is present within us is the basis and foundation.
tellatene shiza tellatene ene ko riksaya 중요하래 세바다 가다 니지심부 뭔도 주니 니지심부 줄을 깨네 니지심부
When you actually achieve genuine compassion, then you really become a son or daughter of the lineage. When we say that physical form itself is devoid of independent existence, that means that the existence of that form, or some physical aggregate as such, is dependent upon its causes and conditions. And it is dependent upon the mind designating its tone and the form.
대다 에네 가사 수동보 동반이 수수를 동반이 셴마이 동반이 열리지 수시마이 노세네 다 대대비 에네
Apart from the form, there is no emptiness, and apart from emptiness, there is no form. On the basis of one object, like our physical form, there are two entities, the entity of conventional truth and the entity of the ultimate truth. These two truths, even though they have different aspects, are of the same entity.
가서를 그게 코나 그게 유지 들로 뭐니 주변 또 인버데 나란서 르 또한테 가서다 또 텔레베 따다베 고도되네 그러다 정신이 예버식 딱 나란서 나한테 야래 네 인버데
Ignorance comes into existence because even though in terms of reality things do not have independent existence, because of our contaminated and defiled mind, we tend to see all phenomena as having independent existence. We tend to see that there is an abstract, solid object from its own side. As was said by Santaraga Dorji in his famous text, Identifying the Mother, in which he says that when any object or phenomenon appears to us, we tend to see that there is an object to which we apply the term and the name, and we tend to see the object as having independent or inherent existence. The fact is that there is no such object of existence. Because of the lack of such independent existence, we can see various aspects of its changes. And this is the case because, due to our unformed mind, we tend to see its independent and inherent existence.
차단기 산배 뉴몬디 이디 게윤두산에 거라 다도 진배 띠무 덴징기 시체니 다 차단기 산배 뉴몬도 잘해야 차라니 여바리.
Based on this ignorance of self-grasping, when we talk about hatred, anger, and other types of afflictive emotions, there are two levels of afflictive emotions, one gross and another subtle. The grosser level of afflictive emotions is based on the grasping of the person as self-sufficient and substantially existing. The subtler level of afflictive emotion is based on the misconception of seeing things as having objective and independent existence. In short, based on these misconceptions of seeing things as having objective independent existence, various types of afflictive emotions come into being. And this we can understand when we take some time and reflect on the process of perceiving things. Therefore, when we talk about samsara, or the cycle of existence, and liberation, these are related to two types of perceptions. When you're able to perceive and realize the nature of reality or emptiness, then you are able to be liberated. And if we are unable to see that, then we wander in the cycle of existence. As it is explained in the clear commentary by Haribhadra, that first you establish the selflessness of the person, then you establish the lack of substantial separateness of the subject from the object. And then you establish the lack of independent existence, which is uniquely in accord with the Madhyamaka school of thought. Yogis should analyze in the following manner. A person who is not observed as separate from the mental and physical aggregates, elements, and sense powers. So a person is not formed separate from those psychophysical aggregates.
nga shenbe kadugi shunu lugi chaba den dengi shenbe ngati 풍부 코로나 때문에 지기 풍부 코로나 찍도 여봐이나 아니 shunu 풍부 때가 gambu 풍부리야 차도 말봐.
So if the I has an independent and inherent existence and is at one with the independently existing body, then it is not possible that that same body of the young child could become the body of the old person. But the body of a young child and the body of an old person are totally different. This you will see when you look at your photos when you were a child. What continues is the same I. The continuum of that same I continues, and it is because of this continuity that you can say, this was my photo when I was a young boy, when I was a child, and so forth. Therefore, if you accept the person as having independent existence, and one with an independently existing body, then you will face a lot of contradictions. Therefore, it is said that nor is a person of the nature of aggregates and so forth, because the aggregates and so forth have the qualities of being many and being impermanent.
Any ngati be jun chabala de kosola di gumindo was pungbulo so what than midagwata na pungbu semne shagiyare da pungbu semne nga sha yundu sane any pungbu rang nane da any ngai chenshi chi joju ma chuna any nga rang kasore ngai rang kasore pe rang sen de la du yo ngai chen la du yo so de yimba yundu sane pungbu nane da 수지 풍부, 두시 풍부, 두시모 남시지 풍부 사야 되는데 예배 나왔네. 다 남시지 풍부디, 남시지 풍부 디나네. 다 가서 이기 시봐. 디네 나이 천실이야. 내가 이 말이야.
So therefore, some of these Buddhist schools of thought said that to accept the inherent existence on the conventional level, say that when you search, the basis of the designation of the person is the consciousness itself. Even within the psychophysical aggregate, if you search, you will not find any example of such a person, because a person is merely designated. So, if you try and look at a person as having a permanent and single existence, you will never be able to find it. The person as a phenomenon cannot exist except as one of many, because there is no other way of existing. Therefore, we must conclude that the association with the world and I and mind is wholly mistaken. Ordinary worldly people tend to see the I and mind as having independent existence. This is wholly mistaken. This refutes the notion of a person having substantial and self-supporting existence. To your normal, ordinary mind, you get the feeling of a person, the perception of a person. But when you search, you won't find a person upon whom you can lay your hand or pinpoint their existence.
양나지 마음에 차고 나서 지기 가서 우리 그게 셰베 정신 지 세상 릭sam기 모르고 들대는 소리도 와.
At present, your mind is invented by a host of images, of form, of sound, of smell, and similarly so are many ideas of the past, about the future, and so forth. But if you intentionally do not trace and follow past experiences, and also do not let your mind wonder about the future, and simply meditate on the present state, then you might be able to get a glimpse of the mere luminous experiential nature of the mind. But in the case of I, however long you may analyze and investigate it, you won't find an I. Based on that, if you think that there is no I at all, then that is also a misconception, because the existence of I is proven through our own personal experiences, experiences of happiness, experiences of suffering, and so forth. When we do not analyze or do not investigate and do not search, then there is I, there is other, there is a Buddha, there is a sentient being. And all of these are presented and established based on the conventional level. But when you search, you won't find anything. You won't find Buddhas, you won't find lamas, you won't find sentient beings, and so forth. Not finding them through analysis and investigation does not mean their non-existence, because their way of existence as such is that they have deleted conventional existence and do not have an independent existence. In this way, when you search, you will find that everything is mentally designated. And it is best when that mental designation is the way that things reflect and the way that things appear. It is based on such types of reasons that the existence of external objects is refuted, and it is said that everything is in the nature of the mind. That, in fact, is the philosophy of the Mahayana school of thought. This means that from the substantial cause of one mind, both the subject and the object is materialized and realized, and it is said that the object and the subjective mind are substantially the same. And they are both a product of the cause of the same mind. They are caused by the same activation of the same predisposition. Just as physical form causes certain aspects and their identities, neither one nor many, similarly the mind is not different from them. Its identity, too, is neither one nor many. Therefore, the mind, by definition, is an illusion. When the multifarious objects which appear to the mind do not have an independent existence, then the mind which perceives them cannot have an independent existence. The lack of independent existence of the mind can also be understood if you separate the mind into different moments and so forth. It is just like watching television, particularly by a child. When a child sees mountains, seas, and so forth on television, they might think that this is real mountains, real seas, and so forth. Similarly, what appears to our mind is like an illusion, because even though these things appear to us to have an independent existence, in reality, whether it is the external object or the internal mind, they do not have an independent existence.
nang yore de ine na ta to jube tong yin de sa ne nang ya me de ju ma de re cha bare to te te da shirab ki sem ji ngo ni la so so ta na tan tam bar ni tan tam bar sem ni nang do ya mi mi tan tam ba wa de sha
From the ultimate point of view, nothing can be found. In this way, when the identity is specifically examined by wisdom, in the ultimate sense it is perceived neither within nor without. It is also not perceived in the absence of thought. Neither the mind of the past nor the mind of the future nor of the present is perceived. When the mind is born, it comes from nowhere, and it goes nowhere because it is incomprehensible, undemonstratable, and non-physical. If you ask what is the entity of that which is incomprehensible, undemonstratable, and non-physical, and which is thoroughly sought but cannot be found, what is not found cannot be perceived, and what is perceived is neither past nor future nor present. Through such analysis, the beginning of the mind is ultimately not seen. The end of the mind is ultimately not seen, and the middle of the mind is not seen. All phenomena should be then understood as lacking an end and a middle, just as the mind does not have an end or middle. With the knowledge that the mind is without a middle or an end, no entity of the mind is perceived. What is realized by the mind is realized as being empty. As explained in Nagarjuna's fundamental wisdom, there is not the slightest example of an object which does not have the nature of lack of inherent existence. In this way, when a person does not firmly apprehend the entity of a thing as ultimately existing, having investigated it with wisdom, the practitioner engages in a non-conceptual, single-pointed concentration, and thus the identitylessness of phenomena is realized. So when you search and analyze by using the discriminative awareness of wisdom, then whether it is an external phenomenon or an internal phenomenon, you will not find any of these phenomena as having independent existence. Thus, such a truth will be realized. This is the meaning of realizing the reality of emptiness.
가서로 그게 소소도베 시럽게 다시 째네 아니 뭐니 매바 뭐니 가서 뭐니 매바 째네 아니
Those who do not meditate with wisdom by analyzing the entity of things specifically, but merely meditate on the elimination of mental activity, cannot work conceptual thoughts and cannot realize identitylessness because they lack the light of wisdom. When we talk about developing wisdom, we are talking about a wisdom which focuses on the object, and the object here is emptiness. So therefore, if you say that mental non-conceptual states means not to have any thought at all, whether it's a positive thought or a negative thought, and if you say that to allow any thought to arise in the mind, whether a positive or negative thought is wrong, then that is definitely a misconception and a wrong idea.
이 조금 가는 조거야 좀 가려서 봐이나 짜마샤나 남도 게임 거야. 나 저기 이 메이드산에
Some of these ideas are connected with tantric practice. When you engage in certain tantric practices of meditation, then it is done through stabilizing meditation and not analytical meditation, because when you engage in analytical meditation, it induces conceptions. There, your main thrust is to discover the special view of emptiness based on tantric practice. It is important to understand different teachings in their correct context. You should not use the same charm and the same statements in different contexts and take them as always having the same meaning. Therefore, it is wrong to treat all conceptions as wrong, and also the usage of the term ultimate. You cannot use terms like ultimate in all contexts and think that they always have the same meaning. So here it clearly says that merely meditating on the elimination of mental activity cannot eliminate conceptual thought, and also cannot realize identitylessness, because they lack the light of wisdom.
최신 수로 써보라 내내 삼대 미치징스 지된 디다 지된 8월기 발라 내내 삼대 미치디 수로 써봐 지나 미미베치로 대다외나 미미베 삼대바 시차오 말 미네베 삼대바 시차오
Such a practitioner is then called a meditator of supreme wisdom, because specifically examining the identity of all things with wisdom, he has perceived nothing. This is as stated in the Jewel and the Crown and other sutras. In order to engage and develop insight, first you should meditate on emptiness and develop the way of emptiness.
전타버리 예방 얻으시는 송어 말이스 군속도 예방 얻으시는 송어래 전타버리 야 말이스 준는데 송어래 근데 인도 전타버리 매매 매고 쳐봐 말이 전타버리 매매 군속도
As described by the Buddha, things do not exist automatically. This does not mean to say that things do not exist conventionally. Sentient beings with a childish attitude exaggerate phenomena, thinking of them as having an intrinsic identity, while they lack it. Thus, attributing intrinsic existence to those things that lack it confuses their minds, and as a result, they wander in the cycle of existence for a long time. For these reasons, I shall endeavor to achieve the omniscient state by the completion of accumulations of merits and insights in order to help them realize suchness. Since body, object, and the subjective mind do not have independent existence, therefore, by entering into meditative equipoise through that mind that is entered into equipoise, there is no independently existing sign, both in the case of the subject and the object. So to engage in such meditation is the practice of a bodhisattva. Bodhisattvas must rely on virtuous practices like generosity as a means to thoroughly enlighten all sentient beings in order to perfect their place, body, and manifold retinue. If it were not so, what would be the process of these fields, the fields of Buddhas, and so forth? The extensive collection of all qualities in the sutra also says for Maitreya, bodhisattvas thoroughly accomplish the 6 perfections in order to obtain the final fruit of Buddhahood. But to these the foolish respond that the bodhisattvas should attain only the perfection of wisdom. What's the need for the other perfections? Maitreya, what do you think of this? When the king of Kashi offered his flesh to the hawk for the sake of a pigeon, was it a corruption of wisdom? Maitreya replied that this is not so. The Buddha said, Maitreya, the bodhisattvas accumulated roots of merits through their deeds in conjunction with the 6 perfections. Are these roots of merits in conflict? Maitreya replied, Buddha, this is not so, And the Buddha spoke further. Maitreya, you also correctly practice the perfection of generosity for 60 eons, the perfection of ethics for 60 eons, the perfection of patience for 60 eons, the perfection of energetic perseverance for 60 eons, the perfection of meditative stabilization for 60 eons, and the perfection of wisdom for 60 eons. To this, the foolish respond, there is only one way to attain Buddhahood, and that is the way of emptiness. The practice of the foolish is completely mistaken. The philosophical view of path of the Bodhisattva is different than the philosophical view of the path of non-Buddhists. For example, the philosophical view of non-Buddhists observes a truly existent self and so forth. And such a form is completely divorced from wisdom, therefore they cannot obtain liberation. The preceding paragraphs explain that through the view of emptiness, you will be able to stop the extreme view of the cycle of existence, and through the development of compassion, you will be able to stop the extreme of solitary personal liberation. The heroes and Pratyeka Buddhas do not possess great compassion. Thus they achieve only liberation and not enlightenment. These heroes and Pratyeka Buddhas fall into the extreme of solitary peace or liberation just for themselves. That is the meaning of the statement that the heroes are separated from great compassion and devoid of skillful means. Similarly, a bodhisattva is also aware of nirvana and does not try to actualize it. This is because he realizes that doing so, he would be turning away from enlightenment. If he realized merely unskillful means, the bodhisattva will not transcend the ordinary level, and thus they will remain in bondage. Therefore, he cultivates skillful means along with wisdom. By the power of wisdom, bodhisattvas can transform even the disturbing emotions into nectar, like under a tantric spell. There is no need to express the goodness of generosity, which leads to naturally elevated states of existence. The heap of jewels sutra states Kashyapa is like this. Due to the power of tantra and medicine, even poison may not cause death. Similarly, of the disturbing emotions of bodhisattvas under the power of wisdom, they cannot cause their own downfall. Therefore, due to the power of skillful means, the bodhisattvas do not abandon the cycle of existence. They do not fall to nirvana. Due to the power of wisdom, they eliminate all objects misconceived as truly existent. Therefore, they do not fall into the cycle of existence.
Yeah.
Those interested in Buddhahood must cultivate both wisdom and skillful means. While you are meditating on transcendental wisdom, or while you are in a deep meditative absorption, you cannot engage in skillful means, such as practicing generosity. But skillful means can be cultivated along with wisdom during the preparatory and post-meditative periods. That is the way to engage in wisdom and skillful means. The three walls are like an illusion which the wise Buddha knew about long before he knew about sentient beings in this world and in undertaken efforts to help them. It is because of the Bodhisattva's practice of wisdom and skillful means that it is said that they eliminate the cycle of existence. But, in their thoughts, they abide in nirvana. They are influenced by the view of emptiness, but in terms of practice, they try to help them and try to allow them to remember their needs, and so forth. In this way, they become familiar with generosity and other skillful means that are dedicated to unserviceable and perfectly accomplished enlightenment, having the essence of emptiness and great compassion, in order to generate the ultimate awakening mind of bodhicitta as was done earlier, as the calm, abiding meditation and special insight, as much as to achieve such realizations. As it was taught in the Pure Field of Engagement Sutra, always be familiar with skillful means by closely placing mindfulness on the qualities of bodhisattvas who work for the welfare of all sentient beings at all times. If the influence of such practices are there as and when you encounter helpless beings, then your compassion will be strong. And similarly, when you see multifarious types of events and experiences in this life, you will also be able to see these as illusions and the possibilities of countless appearances, and from which you will also be able to see that these things have a reason based on temporary factors and conditions, and thus they do not have independent existence. As the great master Chantaroga has said, when you see all of these multifarious changes, you will be able to clearly ascertain that these are expressions of the unchanging Mother. This expresses the fact of emptiness, meaning that it is because of the fact that everything is interrelated and interconnected and relative that you are able to see all these expressions. When you are able to maintain such an outlook and such a view, then you will find each and every circumstance and events as a source for strengthening your taking refuge, and as a source for understanding impermanence. Just because of this, the great master Batawa said, "I do not need any text because all visible phenomena are my teachers." Since you are able to see these multifarious aspects of expressions of emptiness, you will be able to constantly remind yourself about various topics and practices and realizations. Irrespective of whether your life is prospering or your life is suffering, it doesn't matter whether you have many prayers to recite or not. What is really important is to exercise your mind and to reflect on this point. This is the way to practice, as I have explained. Here, when we talk about eliminating the afflictive emotions, it is not eliminating them temporarily, but eliminating them forever. This is possible by developing the view of emptiness, by developing the wisdom of emptiness. And that view of wisdom realizing emptiness should also be influenced by the practice of bodhicitta. If you engage in such a dream, then you will definitely improve day by day, month by month, and year by year, as is explained in the paragraph that I've just read. Those who become familiar with compassion, skillful means, and the awakening mind of bodhicitta will undoubtedly excel in this life. Thus you will effortlessly accomplish the accumulation of merits and insights, and you will have great wealth, a large following, many attendants. Possessing a sharp intelligence, you will be able to ripen the minds of many beings in all lives, because such a person will be able to recall past lives. Try to understand such immeasurable advantages that are also described in the other sutras. In this way, gradually, you will be able to refine and discipline your unruly mind or behavior of special mind. It is in this way that you will be able to make your life happy and with a disciplined mind, whether as a teacher, as a scientist, as a leader, as a businessman. So long as you have this wonderful motivation, all human activities become beneficial. If you are devoid of pure motivation, even religious practices will become a cause for accumulating negative deeds, for provoking anger, jealousy, and so forth. And if you act as a leader, you will also employ many deceitful humans. And if you become a scientist, your works will become very destructive. So all human activities, whether they become positive or negative, is very much related to your mental outlook, your motivation. As one great master said, when your mind is good, then the path is good, and the ground is good. And when your mind is bad, the path is bad, and the ground is bad. So everything is dependent upon the mind. If you are a religious practitioner, it is said that even if you are a great practitioner, you will welcome death. And if you are even a middling practitioner, you will not have to fear. So if you lead such a good life, then you will have great peace within your mind. So what is really important is that we all work very hard to this end. This completes the preliminary teaching, and thank you very much.
Chanjo samba kana so ba da da kun ge melon ru jo je jambe ba je da jamba da kun ro sambo de an de je do da kun ge je do da gyawa de da dam je ro do mo de so je be gyawa dam je ye mo kana so do ga ba de da ge ge da wan de sambo je je ra do mo wa ra ye. ene loma nam anda nge anda pha tangdu ta tangdu shorbe kada dunji ge da kada so nga je sin she and lama da jingo jo.
Next is making the mandala offering, during which I have mentioned divine pride, seeing myself as the Kalachakra deity, indivisible from the Kalachakra deity. Imagine the complete mandala, the mandala of body, speech, and mind of the Kalachakra. First is the speech mandala, and then is the mind mandala, and then the mandala of bliss. So in short, imagine a palace with 3 kinds of mandalas. So imagine the presence of 722 deities within the mandalas of body, speech, and mind. And you should imagine yourself on the eastern door of the body mandala. Now, in allowing you to enter inside the mandala, you should imagine that you are making the 9-step mandala offering.
야, 다 되라. 아니 저르부치가 도주 눈이면 나라야. 이제 소인 바래. 데나 조사 계속 들어봐라. 서무 도주 때도 퍼진데. 넘버 2 상아 퍼진의 신도 캬바하고 이노신 이만 나도 군도 차스. 식디 템베 식도 내신도 상면택의 지도 불시지. 서울미지 캐베 크른즈 뭐 단단해야 싫어 짠이는 델레신도 옹부뜨고 강. 신도 차가 코나 매발 든든 야원도 개마오 살.
Song Kappa, in his text called Expressing the Excellent Inferior, says that even though the greatness of Tantra is very well known, like the sun and the moon, even after such renown, if you do not make an effort to understand the meaning of the Tantra, then it is a joke to call yourself a wise person. In order to attain enlightenment, we need to follow 2 paths, the path of perfection, the Sutra path, and the Tantric path. The Course vehicle or the Sutra path explains the practice of the 6 perfections, which are the causes of enlightenment, and apart from engaging in practices of the 6 perfections, which are the causal factors, there is no process of practice in which, doing the state of the Course, you can meditate on the resultant states. Whereas in the Tantric practice, in addition to all the complete causal practices, there is also a technique to meditate on the resultant states, like the perfect place of the Buddha, the perfect retinue of the Buddha, in other words, the 4 perfect purified states of the resultant state of the Buddha. So, at the level of one's imagination, one can meditate on such resultant states of the Buddha, and thus one can mention pride in these resultant states, and thus one can use these results on the path. So there is this special method and practice that is found in the Tantra that is not there in the Sutra practice.
debut cheda number drive lam tadane pa meba yiji gomne eno namji tutup pegeda namji tutuda kasor pege ya mixegi pegeda sabke yode ba tindichili ya ini debut thwa sene ande so yin bare sada dene debut ni
So out of these 2 paths, the causal vehicle and the resultant vehicle of tantric practice is much more profound. As Tsongkhapa has said, Vajrayana is said to be even rarer than the Buddha himself. Let us take the example of this particular present eon, which is said to be visited by 1,000 Buddhas, and out of which the 4th Buddha, the 4th liberator, was Buddha Shakyamuni. So 4 Buddhas have already visited this eon, and 996 Buddhas are yet to visit. Such a marvelous method, the tantric practice, which is even rarer than the Buddhas. These tantric practices in the past, in India, were practiced in a hidden and very secret way, and transmitted only to reliable students and genuine practitioners. And thus, tantric practice is done in a very secret way. Now, in the case of tantric practice, there are basically four classes of tantra. The Buddha, as you know, first taught the Four Noble Truths, and secondly, at Wilder's Peak, he taught the Wisdom Perfection Sutra. And then he taught the sutra which is explained by the Uttara Tantra. And in the Tathagata Garbha Sutra, it speaks about the 9 examples and the 9 meanings, based on which the subject of clear light is explained. I think that it is in this way that students are gradually guided onto the tantric path. As I explained earlier, the main tantric practice is focused on activating the primordial clear light mind. And in order to do so, you have to forcibly stop the manifestation of grosser mind and energy. This is possible through undertaking the practice of uniting the red and the white elements in order to make one's mind familiar with such practice. So in the lower tantric classes, there is a meditation in which one meditates the deities in the mandala in the form of fully ordained bhikshu and so forth. There's also a technique of meditating on the mandala in which you see the deities in the form of a king and his ministers or retinues. And in order to lead to this ultimate practice of forcibly stopping the manifestation of grosser mind and grosser energy, then there's also the practice of gazing at the primal consort and developing joy and using that joy on the path, and touching the hands and embracing and so forth. Such techniques are taught in the 4 classes of Tantra. So all these techniques are taught in courses, and in the case of the highest Tantra, basically the Father Tantra and the Mother Tantra.
kada tebe dewa ene lamdu chano dinde thane ene sumbu yebare dinde iba idisane ene goda tata lajang nini chu da na ba sima da dinde iba idisane dinde de da gyudi shi thale ya chiludi dinde ji tabgal su shimo da ne da ba ga de je de sungdo wa da kada ene natural lamele ya
Mother Tantra refers to a practice whose primary focus is to analyze the ultimate mind of the Buddha. And according to scholars like Tassilo Sawa, Father Tantra refers to a Tantra which focuses on secret initiation, and one which focuses on the wisdom initiation is the Mother Tantra. According to the Kalachakra Tantra, even though subsequent recollection and empty form are explained, the main focus is immutable place, so its main focus is clear light. Therefore, some scholars categorize this as a Mother Tantra. According to some scholars, the Kalachakra Tantra is classified as a non-dualistic Tantra, and it is called Clear Tantra, because it clearly explains the meaning of the 4th initiation, which is the meaning of union. So whether you classify the Kalachakra Tantra as a Mother Tantra or a non-dualistic Tantra, Kalachakra is definitely a tantric practice which is very extensive and profound. External Kalachakra Tantra refers to the external environment, which includes also astrology, and thus there is an extensive presentation. During the explanation of the external Kalachakra, the external environment is explained in detail. And similarly, when you undertake the generation stage practice and see yourself as a deity, then there is also a technical meditation, for example, like a long life deity, and so forth, referring to the external explanations of the Kala Chakra. The uniqueness of all this individual Anitra Yoga Tantra is discovered during the completion stage practice. In the completion stage practice, there is this six-branched practice, like individual absorption, concentration, and retention. And right from the time when you dissolve energy into the central channel, with individual withdrawal and so forth, it is only after Guru Samaja, it is only after dissolving, abiding the dissolution of energy into the central channel, that you enter into the completion stage practice.
아다 롱mol로 토마지 수 뒤야가 고스베 그도네 조름 그지 벌레 샤이고요. 사디레 이마인데 산에시 디 법네도 스텝에나 조조디 서부지 여자버지 내주 차이게. 가래서나 빼나가 안저 지 대저 제불항에 조름 다
In accordance with the higher chakra samvara counterpart, in completion stage practice there are two levels. Completion stage practice when you are trying to activate the clear light, and there is also a completion stage practice when you already make manifestation of clear light. If you compare these Kala Chakra practices, particularly on the six-branched practices, and relate it to other Uttara Tantra practices, you will find Kala Chakra Tantra practices very important and extensive. It is uniquely profound. Secondly, in Tibet, according to many genuine and reliable masters, when they gave the Kala Chakra initiation, they do not make any restrictions about the numbers of students. So there is also this tradition of giving it to the public. For example, Consort Dorji Chang, when he gave Kala Chakra initiation at Ganden, said that irrespective of whether or not one has physically attended the Kala Chakra initiation, he said that everyone who was within the compound of Ganden Monastery, that everyone would receive the Kala Chakra initiation. What could be the reason for that? Also, there is this connection between Kala Chakra and Shambhala. So if you relate yourself to the Kala Chakra teachings, then you make some karmic connection. Then one could opt in certain added facilities to leave positive imprints, to be born in Shambhala. In short, in order to undertake the practice of Kala Chakra, you must first measure your mind by receiving the initiation. So today we will deal with the part that deals with the process of entering the mandala. Imagine yourself on the eastern door of the mandala. The meaning of it is supramundane victor. Let me enter for great bliss into the city of liberation, the mandala, the joyous bliss of all feats. Through the feat of excellent supreme bliss, may it be thoroughly accomplished. Ya Hum Bam Ho.
Sukha, Mokshapuram, Sawa Siddhi, Sukhapadam, Parama, Sukha, Uttama Siddhi, Zao Bao, Parsiddhi So, Om Pambishaya, Bangavan, Sukha, Mokshapuram, Sawa Siddhi, Sukhapadam, Parama Sukha, Uttama Siddhi, Zao Bao, Parsiddhi So. 나한테는 좀 벽에도 주고 네 전도장 무주 군지 대와 냠가와 탈배 총도 좀 대신 juk 초도 대와 담배 무주기 자원 방어 접도 줘버지 아 저와께버 신네 나한테 디절이야 아니 소하다 봐 이말에 난 소하데베
Having developed enthusiasm, next is making a supplication, the meaning of which was explained yesterday. Presently we are controlled by our mind, and our mind is controlled by afflictive emotions. And so long as we are under the control of afflictive emotions, it is not possible to achieve long-lasting peace and happiness. When you are under the control of afflictive emotions, and born again and again within samsara, which is the cycle of existence, we are abiding in this cycle of existence, or in this samsara. And this cycle of existences is compared to that of an ocean. Within that ocean of cycles of existence, we encounter many problems, like suffering of suffering, suffering of change, and we encounter endless sufferings and problems. So in short, we are controlled constantly by afflictive emotions and reflect such a state. It is not only you who has fallen in this ocean of samsara, but all sentient beings are falling into this ocean of samsara and suffering.
And
this costume promotes the mindfulness of the clear appearance of yourself as a deity and pride in yourself as a deity. So you put on various articles of apparel and so forth of the deity. And so the Lama first gives the student the lower robe of various cloths, and then the Lama gives the student the yellow upper robe, and then he gives the red crown protrusion.
Just coming to the end of encoding this message now. I'm doing 5. Almost finished.
For the time being, you are not entitled to see the mandala, and you should imagine a blindfold being given. In the future, when you enter the mandala, when you see the deities of the mandala, as a gift, a flower garland is given to you. This blindfold is given to you to indicate that for the time being you are not entitled to see the mandala. The flower garland is given so that you can offer it to the deities of the mandala when you actually enter the mandala. You can tie the blindfold, but do not put the flower on your forehead right now, just keep it in your hand.
आप ऐसे विचार करेंगे कि काल चक्र मंडल के पूर्व के बाहरी द्वार पर हम उपस्थित हैं और करना है वो अपने हाथ में पकड़ के रखिए
तादेने कमदरियांग सोशिंदांग छोचु जिम्ब गवे ता थोमा सोशिंदावाला 저는 가슴이 시죠.
Here also the student drops the tooth stick for the sake of determining what type of feat they are to work at achieving, and also handfuls of water are given. Yesterday you drank that preparation when we threw the tooth stick. It meant that you were suitable to receive the initiation or not. And here, the tooth stick is thrown to determine what type of attainment you will have. As yesterday, we repeat this mantra. May the seed syllables of the 6 lineages, Om, Ah, Hum, Ho, Ham, Ksha, and the Vajra tooth stick, having the nature of purity, of the 4 doors of liberation, purify the defilements of the teeth, and so forth, of the faces of exalted body, speech, mind, and pristine consciousness. Svaha. The tooth stick indicated the attainment of increase. Next is giving a handful of water. Having purified by the water, the student changes themselves into the Kalachakra deity with a consort. You should imagine again the hindering negative forces are being eliminated. As we discussed earlier, we all have a strong corresponding I, even in dreams. When not analyzed, and when not mistaken for a negative field, there is an I upon which we can lay our hands and we can pinpoint. But in reality, I is something that is merely designated on the body and the mind. And apart from that, there is no objectively existing I. But if you examine this body from the top of your head to the soles of your feet, you cannot find an example by which you can say that this is the I. Similarly, it is the case with your mind. You won't find any such part of the mind as an example of I. So there is no I that you can really touch and say that this is the I. So let us make a conclusive determination on this reality, and having determined and concluded that there is no such self-supporting and independently existing I. In other words, there is no such I which we normally take for granted. But here again, we are not saying that there is no I at all. What we are saying is that it is definite that there is not such an I as we normally used to think. So let us reflect on that. Based on that, as you have reflected on that, the lack of the independent existence of an I, this very I, apprehending the lack of the existence of an I, is this I. Instantaneously you generate and transport yourself as Kalachakra, blue in color, holding a vajra and a bell, dwelling with the right leg outstretched, embracing his consort Vishvamata, blue in color and holding a curved knife and skull. So the process of generating one's deity is not simply saying that you are replaced by Kalachakra, but first you meditate on emptiness. And by meditating on emptiness, on the level of that mind meditating on emptiness, the appearance of your present body and mind will not be there. And then bear that in mind. Apprehending the lack of inherent existence body is generated into the Kalachakra deity. Having transformed yourself into Kalachakra deity, then think that there is a black hum on a Rahu disk at the heart, a red ah on a sun disk at the throat, and a white om on a clear moon disk at the forehead. Rays of light from the three syllables turn your body into clear light. You also have an interest in achieving enlightenment for the sake of all sentient beings. So when you are asked, "Who are you?" then you should answer, "I am the fortunate one." So during this second portion, what is being asked is, are you someone who is simply interested in the Mahayana path, or also interested in the Tantric path? So therefore, when you are asked, "What do you like?" you should answer by saying, "I desire great bliss." That means that you like the Tantric path. And when you enter the Mahayana Sutric path, it takes a long time to enlightenment. When you enter the Tantric path, then it is much more powerful in the sense that you are able to reach enlightenment in a much shorter time. Not only that, if you simply analyze and simply follow only the Sutric path, then you will be able to achieve certain higher states of realization. But it is not possible to achieve enlightenment, because by following the Sutric path, you are unable to remove the subtlest dualistic appearances. And it is not possible to block the conceptual thoughts like appearance, increase, and attainment. Whereas in the Tantra, there is a practice of developing great bliss as the direct counterforce in eliminating the subtlest dualistic appearances and processes and perceptions. Therefore, if you right from now generate interest in the Tantric path, you will be able to leave positive imprints. And gradually, you'll begin to develop such realizations in accordance with the Tantric path. It is through this way that you will be able to achieve Buddhahood. It is by developing great bliss on the path and learning to develop the clear light mind. And thus you are saying that I am interested in the yoga of developing great bliss and primordial clear light mind into an entity of the path. If you have that, then you will also be able to actualize the empty body, as is explained in the Kalachakra. You will also be able to actualize the illusory body. You'll also be able to actualize the amber body. So whatever material you want to prepare, you can prepare that based on your fundamental practice of employing the great bliss and clear light on the path. On the side of the students, it is really important to reflect carefully and bring some transformation in one's mind. And with that, if you answer this, you will leave a very strong imprint to be able to quickly develop realizations in the future. I am the fortunate one, and I desire great bliss. Again, you may ask supplication. This supplication comes from Naropa's commentary on the brief explication of initiations, and the third being from Kolika Pandarika's great commentary. The meaning of this supplication is, I go for refuge to the feet of you, remover of the frights of cyclic existence, unsullied by the faults of cyclic existence, essence of all excellences. The karmic energy is absent, which is not possible to develop the grosser level of emotions. Once you stop the manifestation of karmic energy, which is the more conceptual thoughts, and then the grosser conceptual thoughts will not arise. So it is by removing the karmic energy that conceptual thoughts are stopped. So here you can clearly see that here there are two ways of stopping the manifestation of afflictive emotions. One is to develop wisdom meditating on emptiness, which acts as a counterforce for ignorance. Another is that you develop great bliss by forcibly stopping the manifestation of grosser levels of the mind and energy. It is in this way that the term remover of the fright of the cycle of existence is being stated. The movement of the karmic energy is stopped by using desire of the path. Even though you use desire of the path, you must make sure it is not sullied by the faults of the cycle of existences. Just like a lotus flower, which, even though it is born in the mud, is not sullied by the mud. The essence of all excellences is manifest in the ultimate state of Kala Chakra, whose state is totally purified. So expressing the unique activities of the Lama is indivisible from the Kala Chakra. From beginningless time, we all have this wish to have happiness. When we are unable to achieve reliable peace and happiness, why is it so? Right from beginningless time, we do not like to experience suffering, but we are full of suffering. Why is it so? This is so because we have allowed the self-cherishing attitude and self-grasping to reside peacefully within our mind. This is so because we have allowed the self-cherishing attitude and self-grasping to reside peacefully within our mind. So self-cherishing attitudes and self-grasping attitude reside peacefully within our heart, like our own life, and it is because of this that we are confronted with countless sufferings, even though we do not want suffering. So, as an antidote to this, to these two negative attitudes, we should on the one hand develop a mind-cherishing development for other sentient beings. And similarly, we should develop wisdom realizing emptiness as an antidote to self-grasping. Unfortunately, until now, we sought the support of these two negative emotions, and we made friends with them. And it is because of this that today we are in this plight in the cycle of existence. So today it is important to take the pulse of the destructive nature of these two negative emotions. Do not confide in them and do not rely on them. And thus you see the Lama, who is indivisible from the Kalachakra deity, who is the sole protector. For me, there is no other refuge from the inexhaustible frights of cyclic existence. Therefore, being very compassionate, be kind to me today. Frightened by awful cyclic existence, from today I especially go for refuge to the Buddhas. With pure body, speech, and mind, also to your lotus feet, definitely removing the frights of cyclic existence. So, remembering these meanings, repeat this supplication 3 times.
표순 속고 끊기다. 최지 셔로 접수시. 사미 콜레 집벌레. 다게 점니 셴마치. 대외 닝지 천전에 드린 달러 거진저. 드린이네. 미세 콜레 집어다니. 야완남라. 접수 학벌치. 최지 셔기. 추지 내발 시벤 직조 달랑 류마 승리 학외소 다들 소화도 받디죠 다들 되셔야 지주섭에 떠보송 인발에
Next is receiving the Bodhisattva vow. The Bodhisattva vow is called the common vow because it is a vow that is received both in the Sutra and the Tantra. And the Tantric vow is uncommon vow because it is explained only in the Tantra and not in the Sutra. The Bodhisattva vow is also common in the sense that it is a practice found in all the 4 classes of Tantra, whereas the Tantric vow is said to be uncommon because it is found only in the Yoga Tantra and not in the first 2 classes of Tantra.
Any tomorrow, but Dojul you want again, Conally at any tower in the Sane, any Karine, tomorrow, but Tomasan to the Himbari. Oh, didn't you go in? That tomorrow should just have a Toman never la.
In order to receive these common bodhisattva vows, as I explained to you earlier, imagine the whole mandala and special vow, and imagine the presence of the Buddha Shakyamuni. Around him, imagine the presence of Nagarjuna, Aryadeva, the lamas of the profound view. Similarly, Asanga and Vasubandhu, and their students who are all attending in addition to themselves. Sangasana, the Master Stevkin, Master of Epistemology, and the Nagas. Imagine all these great knowledge holders, great masters, and similarly, imagine the greatly accomplished masters of the cities, the Arya-Homi of India, and similarly imagine the presence of all the great masters of all the 4 Tibetan Buddhist schools of thought. And similarly imagine all the great masters who have developed mind for the benefit of all sentient beings, and who engage in activities benefiting all sentient beings.
되네 표 간생의 종게 아니 지금 사격권이 리수 마셔베 아니 땡지기 기분 담아
When we talk about all sentient beings, it includes all past, including oneself. Around yourself, imagine the presence of all the countless suffering sentient beings. If you reflect carefully, until now, we all do not want suffering. We all want happiness. But our plight is that in addition to many natural problems, natural disasters, there are many man-made problems and sufferings, even though we all want happiness. But none of us not only do not have long-lasting peace and happiness, but we are even deprived from temporary requirements and needs.
그다음에 지금 배부 제세 뒤 잼배다 동해 남라 먹고 싶고 저기 제주 배도시 아주 연대기 하래 탐절로 대원돼 버리지 이네 폭수 대화지나 가봐야 돼.
What is the cause of all this? The cause is that because of the lack of our undisciplined state of mind, primarily lies in the presence of self-cherishing attitude and self-grasping. In order to transform our mind, the only way is to follow the way of the Buddha. And through that way, you should eliminate self-cherishing attitude and eliminate the objective apprehension of self-grasping. It is in this way that we will realize selflessness or emptiness. The state of enlightenment is a state of two purifications, a state of natural purity and a state of purity which is shaped by developing positive counterforces. So we should develop an appreciation to actualize the Dharmakaya, which is the state of having two purifications. And then you take refuge in Buddha Dharma and the Sangha in order to focus your purposes and perfect the purposes of other sentient beings. I will develop mind towards the Buddhahood. It is in this way that you develop the expressional bodhicitta. And having such an expressional bodhicitta, you invite all sentient beings as your guests. That means that you make a promise and determination that you will fulfill the purposes of all other sentient beings. Having invited them as your guests, there are two purposes, temporary and ultimate. Their temporary purpose is to achieve higher status, and their ultimate purpose is liberation and enlightenment. So it is by showing the right path that you will be able to fulfill your temporary purposes and ultimate purposes. In order to do that, you should lead a life and engage in a practice which is pleasing and beneficial to these sentient beings. The behavior of a bodhisattva is to show the path by which sentient beings are able to achieve liberation and enlightenment. Such behavior is called pleasing behavior because it is nonviolent behavior, and it is behavior of peace, and it is beneficial. In order to live the last 9 deeds, in order to benefit all sentient beings, may I achieve the state of Buddhahood. To aspire to Buddhahood or enlightenment for yourself, so that you are able to benefit other sentient beings, and the achievement of Buddhahood is very much dependent on the practice of the way of life of the Bodhisattva. So it isn't a question whether you should practice the bodhisattva life when you are in the mood, but here you make a commitment to engage in the way of life of a bodhisattva throughout all times to come, and it is for that sake that you receive the bodhisattva vow. Now, when in this regard, the Panchen Lama, the great master Daryen Shepa, has said that tantric practice is such a wonderful practice that it is like touching the naked truth of the three bodies of the Buddha. It is by tantric practice that you transform the three basic bodies, or kayas, to the three true kayas. So according to him, even though you're unable to practice properly, and you receive the tantric vow, even if you fall into a negative state of existence, it is worth risking it. I take refuge to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. Individually disclose all ill deeds. Admire the virtues of beings, and mentally take up the enlightenment of a Buddha. I take refuge to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha until I achieve enlightenment. Admire the virtues of beings, and mentally take up the enlightenment of a Buddha. I take refuge to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha until I achieve enlightenment, in order to fulfill my purpose and the purposes of other sentient beings. I will generate bodhicitta. Having developed bodhicitta, I will invite all other sentient beings as my guests and lead a pleasing way of life to achieve enlightenment for the sake of all sentient beings. When you repeat this for the second time, once again, you should see all other sentient beings as yourself, wanting happiness and not wanting suffering. In your case, you are just one individual, whereas in the case of other sentient beings, they are infinite, countless. I have today found this precious human life and encountered the precious Bodhidharma, and therefore, in order to fulfill the greater purpose, I will relinquish minor purposes, and therefore, henceforth, I will not just get confused only with my personal well-being, but I will try my best to benefit other sentient beings. In short, the very purpose of my life henceforth will be to benefit other sentient beings. So, with that kind of attitude, I can understand, then, your interest in receiving the Bodhisattva vow. Repeat this. Having repeated this 2 times, when you repeat this for the 3rd time, you should begin to strengthen your desire to take the Bodhisattva vow. Your desire to engage in the ways of the life of the Bodhisattva. And we should appreciate the wonderful examples of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. And before long, I will myself become a Bodhisattva and a Buddha, as I am imagining today. I will try to lead a pleasing way of life similar to those of the Buddha and the Bodhisattvas. And the last line, may I achieve enlightenment for the sake of all sentient beings, then you should think that you have developed a genuine Bodhisattva vow. And if you have already developed a Bodhisattva vow earlier, then you should think that it is being amplified. Sit down, please. It is extremely fortunate to be able to generate such a bodhisattva vow, and it is in this way that we have collected the main course for achieving Buddhahood. Using these as a seed, you can make yourself definite to achieve enlightenment in the future. Negative activities like deceiving others, exploiting others, engaging in dishonesty, these are negative activities that are not in harmony with the lineage of the Buddha. In my own case also, I try in my heart to develop such bodhicitta and to make the bodhisattva vow. And you, as my friend, should try your best to undertake such a practice. It is in this way that you will travel from peace to peace, and every day will be a peaceful day. And if you are able to do that, how wonderful that will be. Let us not forget to mention that by thinking about the welfare of other sentient beings, you will fulfill your own purposes. And when you finally achieve Buddhahood, and then of course there is no need to talk about the benefit and peace that you will achieve. But even when you are on the state of turning and developing such an altruistic mind, you derive personal benefit. Next is saying the tantric vow. Please repeat this. After having made the requested supplication for receiving the tantric or mantra vow, next is receiving the uncommon mantra vows, which again strengthen your wish for enlightenment and the commitment to achieve it as quickly as possible. It is based on a feeling of urgency to achieve enlightenment. You receive the uncommon mudra vow. First you make a request from Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, and then you recount your name. Once you recount your name, it will help you to not transplace your commitments. In the case of receiving the Bodhisattva vow, you receive it until you achieve enlightenment. In the case of the uncommon mantra vow, the limit is on the achievement of enlightenment. What kind of vows are you taking here? You are taking a vow which is like the life force of all the tantric practices, of all the Buddhas of the 3 times. So this is the only path, the only special method by which one can achieve enlightenment. Having developed such a mind, I will describe the 3 forms of effects, the difficult precepts, the composite of virtuous practices, and bringing about the welfare of sentient beings. Then you also make a commitment to abide by the pledges of the 5 Buddha lineages. For the 5-pointed Vajra lineage of Akskobaya, I will maintain Vajra, bell, seal, and lama with the crown of my head. In the case of the lineage of Ratnasambhava, I will give gifts. For the wheel lineage of Vairocana, I will keep the pledges of the supreme conquerors. You will train in the 10 practices of giving. For the sword lineage of Amanka city, I will make offerings. For the bright lotus lineage of Amitabha, I will maintain restraint.
군대들 전주고 sem 작바베바 아니 작대 dombe 땡기인스 semjenamne 탈벨레도
Maintaining this tantra refers to abandoning the bliss of emission, even though one makes use of a consort, and thereby maintains pure behavior. So that sentient beings may be liberated, I will, for the Vajrasattva lineage of the progenitor of conquerors, generate enlightenment. In short, you are saying that you will receive the tantric vow in order to liberate those sentient beings that are not liberated from obstructions or admissions, and to release those not released from the cycle of existence, and to relieve those unrelieved in bad transmigrations, and accept sentient beings in nirvana. So these pledges are part of the generation stage, the cause, the entity, the effect, and the action. And this actually refers to the four liberations.
전주 선바 탐제 다라 공수술 다 민디 세계와 튼데네 손데 지지 전주 님보라 세계 파도 지다 주송 공모는 전주 도행엔 세베 전주 선내 라나메 담바다게 제버지 수림진에 라바다 계획 전에 되바다 심지 전주 수준송 소소 담보 송원지 대베 다시 라네 다시 제부 차자 라마 다자 주 송원지人心 라네 진바 진지 콜론데라 야와 저기 점세 장원지 저질라니 셔바지디 사월 수지질라 dom바다니 장원지 심전남니 탈벨레도 야와 젠세질라 전주다게 제버지 마자와는 자월지 마저와는 자월지 부모심보 운용신 심전양엔 달랑고 어다 전주란 담부손에 다 니베 겁소 양 나지 dom바.
During the second repetition, you should develop a strong wish to receive the tantric vow, and you should imagine that the tantric vow is similar to the ones found in the minds of the great knowledge holders.
다민디 세계와 튼데네 손데 지상주 님보라 세계 파도 지도도 송공보나 전주도 냉겐제베 전주선내 라나메 다바다게 제버지 수림진에 라바다 계획전에 되바다 심전 전주 수준송 소소 담보 송원지 대베다지 라네 다시 제부 차자 라마 다자 지유 송원지人心 라네 진바 진지 콜론데라 야와 저게 점세 장원지人질 라네 처바지디 사월 수지질라 dom바다니 장원지 심전남네 탈벨레도 야와 젠제질라 창조다게 제버지 마저와노 자월지 마저와노 자월지 우모심보 우용신 심전양엔 달랑고 다드네 렌순베거려야 에는가je dom바 송두 사과도야.
When you repeat these for the third time, you will strengthen your wish to receive this tantric vow. When you come to the last line, you should imagine that you are developed pure tantric vow.
다민디 세계와 튼데네 손데 지상주 님보라 세계 파도 지도도 송공모나 전주도 냉겐제베 전주선내 라나메 담바다게 제버지 수림진에 라바다 계획전에 되바다 심전주 수준송 소소 담보 송원지 대베 다시 라니 다시 제부 차자 라마 다자 지유 송원지人心 라니 진바 진지 콜론데라 야와 저기 점세 장원지人질 라니 처바지디 사월 수지질라 dom바다니 장원지 심전남니 탈벨레 야와 젠제질라 전주다게 깨버지 마저와노 저월지 마저와노 저월지 우모심보 운용신 심전양엔 달랑고 다디 제라야 뒤순수상아 집은데 양산바라 쇼 나들려야 아니 가리네 비게
Next is giving the 25 modes of conduct. That means to talk about taking life. One should not even mentally harm others, and not tell lies, and not engage in taking others' wealth and drinking beer. These are the 5 ill deeds. The secondary ill deeds are betting, eating impure or improper flesh, reading about things such as war, or stories that are intended to elicit improper desire, hatred, or wrong views, performing sacrifices of living beings for ancestors, or engaging in rites of animal sacrifice, and extreme religious practices. The 5 murderers are to kill cattle, children, women, and men, and to destroy religious symbols of exalted body, speech, and mind. The 5 malices are to have malice for friends, leaders, gurus, the spiritual community, or those who trust and rely on you. The 5 desires are to be mentally captivated by pleasant visible forms, sounds, odors, tastes, and tangible objects, viewing them as singly advantageous without being aware of their disadvantages. Practitioners are to refrain from these 25.
코 도저 샤바다데 랑게 개와주제 디광가 본데다고 그시 간게 주주중화 하다면 라마데 생제 접진자 나서 조요간데 시베지몬 점바다데 취지장에 장와서 초로카나 마도 제베서는 신내로도 중불하면 원배주에 바다시버 비메 개발도나 하면 라마 썰랑간에 미저오 도부 지원도나 하다면 라마 긴류 있는 거 고와야 원분한테 샤바다데 다시베 다보다게 뒤슈 니슈가 나잖아 대자라야 탐전해주고 섬기하시면 비 말이야. 다 탐전해주고 섬기야 될래야. 아니.
Next is to generate the mind of the all-encompassing yoga. The root cause of achieving enlightenment is the development of conventional bodhicitta and ultimate bodhicitta. During the complement of initiation, also, there is this process of developing conventional bodhicitta and ultimate bodhicitta. This development of conventional bodhicitta and ultimate bodhicitta is in the form of a moon disk and vajra, and thus you meditate on the moon and vajra mind. And similarly, you imagine the development of the moon and vajra mind in the heart of the Lama. And then you should imagine that such a conventional bodhicitta and ultimate bodhicitta in the form of a moon and vajra in the heart of the Lama duplicates them and integrates them with your internal moon and vajra mind. It is in this way that you receive the blessing. In order to do this visualization, first of all, you should develop a wish to achieve enlightenment for the sake of all sentient beings. In other words, you should meditate 1 minute, thinking that how nice it will be to achieve enlightenment for the sake of all sentient beings.
아, this 교구입니다. 지금 둘다. 다 안데 다 왕게 커두게 배 캐치슈지. 산제기 사이. 아니 가서 그게
This visualization is in fact one of the most important visualizations during the Tantric empowerment. As I explained to you earlier, the development of conventional bodhicitta and ultimate bodhicitta, these are the 2 main causes that lead to the achievement of enlightenment. This mind wishing to achieve enlightenment is a mind which is full of confidence and a mind which is full of joy. And you should imagine this mind into a moon disk at your heart. as is also explained in the Fundamental Wisdom by Nagarjuna. Whichever has the nature of independent arising is devoid of inherent existence. When the Buddha spoke about emptiness, his main focus was the meaning of the lack of inherent existence. Since things arise by depending on others, since it exists through designation, it is not the case that it is non-existent. So such a part is the middle part. So thus it eliminates the two extremes, the extreme of total non-existence and the extreme of independent existence. It is in this way that the subtle path, or the middle path, is explained by avoiding these extremes, since all phenomena are dependent on other processes and other factors. Thus, with all phenomena that appear to us, we tend to see them as having independent existence or inherent existence. If there is such an independent or inherent existence, then we should be able to pinpoint them. Since we are unable to find such existences through searching, they exist only through the norm, and thus they are merely designated, even though this is the case. But even to our uninformed mind, we tend to see phenomena as having independent existence. So what is important here is to come to a conclusive understanding that all phenomena are devoid of independent existence. So let us meditate on this for 1 minute. The ultimate mind of enlightenment, ascertaining and having interest in the meaning of emptiness of inherent existence, transforms into the aspect of a 5-pointed Vajra on the moon in a standing position. You should imagine the presence of a similar mind of the moon and Vajra at the heart of the Lama. These two minds are the foundation of tantric practice and also the formation and main teaching of the Mahayana path. By thinking that I will never give up these two minds, you should repeat this mantra. You should think that the mind that forms into the
what I'm doing here with the ones and zeros, you can see the 1 as the 5-pointed Vajra, and the O as the moon disk of compassion. So the Vajra is realizing emptiness, but the moon disk is the bodhicitta mind of compassion. And I had this very strong, what I'd call it a realization from visualization when I was in this hotel room on the morning of the interment of my father's ashes in Bolton, and I made a video of it because I visualized, I wanted to see these bits as a three-dimensional physical form, and I saw them as these blocks of these thin blocks of either white or black, and I saw the mattress, and the mattress was a square shape, and the height of the mattress was about 1/10 of its width, and the bottom, the base of the mattress was white, and then the top was the mattress, sorry, the base was black and the top was white. So that's how I see these bits from now on, and then we stack them up in tens, and then so then you've got a cube 10 by 10 by 10, and then you can start to arrange them. Anyway, I could have just counted this, and I could have adjusted the message so that it was a nice multiple of 5. Of course it's a multiple of 5, but it might not be a multiple of 5 that I can make into a rectangle. So that's why I'm fiddling around, but while I'm doing that I'm downloading these. So this is the 6th one downloading. I've already downloaded the 7th one downloaded. I've already downloaded the other 6, and I can carry on now.
Oh yeah. That Samsung.
You should think that the mind that you have generated gets stabilized by the dissolution of the mind in the moon Vajra of the Lama. So here it is important to imagine that this moon and Vajra is at the heart of the Lama Kalachakra, from which a duplicate separates and dissolves into the same Vajra moon and mind at your heart, thereby making it firm. Next is asking students to observe secrecy and not to speak of mantra practices widely, but to keep them secret. Next is entering into the heart of the mandala. You should imagine that now you have entered the mandala. You enter from the eastern door of the exalted body mandala, and after that, while you repeat the following mantra, imagine that you circumambulate the mandala 3 times to the right, that is clockwise. That is inside the wall of the exalted body mandala, but outside the white area where the deities of that area sit. May great joy, thorough firmness, thorough happiness, thorough bliss, Vajrasattva, be established in me today. Next is making prostration. you should imagine that you are on the eastern door and imagine all the 4 doors of the mandala are open. The doors of the body mandala, mind mandala, and speech mandala are open. And you should imagine that you are able to see the main deity. And then, as a student, imagine yourself as Kalachakra. And now you change into a blue Ascobaya. And then, by prostrating to the principal deity in this mantra, we should fold our hands while making prostrations to the deities of the 4 mandalas. Through making supplication thus at the eastern door, you are blessed into magnificence, such that you have the capacity of worshipping and serving the ones gone thus. Having made this supplication from the eastern door, a duplicate from the deity arises, dissolves within yourself, and you are blessed in transport. You have been imagining yourself as Ascobaya, now turned into a black Amoga city. Again, repeat this mantra while making prostrations. Since I offer myself for the activity of worshipping all the Buddhas, may all the Buddhas thus please grant me the Vajra activities. Having made this supplication, you are blessed into magnificence such that you have the capacity of worshipping all the Buddhas as well as of sublime activities. Now you are on the southern door, and you make prostrations to Ratnasambhava. You imagine that you transform into a yellow Ratnasambhava. Since I offer myself for the worship of the Buddhas and for conferral of initiation, may all the Buddhas please confer on me the Vajra jewel initiation. Through making supplication at the southern door of Ratnasambhava, a duplicate of the Ratnasambhava arises and dissolves into yourself, and you are blessed with transport. Then you go to the northern door and you transform yourself into Amitabha and make prostration. Since I offer myself to all the Buddhas for the thorough turning of the wheel of the doctrine, may all the Buddhas please thoroughly turn the wheel of the Vajra doctrine for me. Through making supplication at the northern door of Amitabha and its host of deities, a duplicate of Amitabha arises and dissolves into yourself, and you are blessed with transport. Then you go clockwise to the western door and you make prostration to the deities of the western door, and for that you instantly change yourself into a yellow Vairocana and repeat this mantra. Since I offer myself to all the Buddhas for worship and service, may Vairocana, the entity of the Buddhas, bless me into magnificence. Through making supplication at the western door, you are blessed into magnificence through the dissolution of the duplicate of Vairocana within yourself. And again, you go to the eastern door and there bow down to the Lama and pay obeisance to the feet of the Lama. This completes making prostrations from the 4 doors of the mandala. Next is setting the student in the pledges. That means abiding in the tantric pledges and asking to observe the secrecy of the tantra, and similarly setting into the pledge of observing the Lama's instructions, and also setting into the pledges of observing the root and secondary infractions. So the Lama reads, "Today you will enter into the lineages of all the Buddhas. Therefore I will generate in you the exalted Vajra wisdom. Through this exalted wisdom you will attain the feats of all the Buddhas. Thus, what need is there to mention that you will attain other feats? You should not speak about this in front of those who have not seen a mandala. If you do so, your pledges will deteriorate." So the Lama sets the Vajra on the student's head and says that, "This is your pledge, Vajra. If you speak about this mode to anyone who is unfit, it will split your head." And blessing the Vajra on the student's heart, the Lama says, "Om. Today Vajrasattva himself has thoroughly entered into your heart. If you speak about this mode, immediately thereafter, he will separate and leave." And this sets you in a pledge not to speak of the initiation and so forth to those whose continuums have not matured for the practice of the path initiation, etc. And the student is set in a pledge to keep from root infractions in general, by way of speaking of both the benefits and dangers. Next is expressing the truth on the descent of the wisdom being. May all the Buddhas bless me into magnificence. May the glorious Kalachakra please descend into me. Here the students transform themselves into a Vajraveg. The basis, according to the Kalachakra system, is this wisdom energy. And the stated basic is that this wisdom energy is the cause of ultimate achievement. It also states that by purifying this wisdom energy, you achieve resultant bodies of the Buddha. So therefore here, when you invoke the wisdom being, you transform yourself into a Vajravega. So here this is done by first meditating on emptiness. You meditate on emptiness, transforming yourself into the state of emptiness. Here he speaks about the total union of the subject emptiness and the wisdom that ascertains emptiness. The wisdom that ascertains emptiness also is by nature pure. It is also in the nature of emptiness, and it is this way that the mind, whose nature is devoid of inherent existence, dissolves into that very nature. And by meditating on that, you should mention that pride, that this is me, or this is I. It is in this way that we meditate on emptiness. From within emptiness emerges a hum, which turns into a Vajra. You generate Vajravega with a blue body having 3 necks, black in the center, red to the right, and white to the left. and having four faces. Blue in the center, red to the right, white to the left, and yellow to the back. Also, each of the faces has exposed fangs and is frightful. All of the faces have 3 orange eyes. The orange hair on the head is standing on end. The first set of shoulders is black, the second red, the third white. Thus there are 6 shoulders with 12 upper arms and 24 lower arms. The first 4 lower arms on each side are black, the second red, the third white, and of the remaining 2 lower arms, the right is black and the left is yellow. The outside of the thumbs of the hands are yellow, the index fingers white, the middle fingers red, nameless fingers black, and the little fingers green. The inside of the first joints of the fingers are black, the second red, and the third white. They are adorned with rings and emit light. The right red leg and the white left leg, in a posture with the right one outstretched, pressed down on the hearts of a demonic god of the desire realm, and an afflicted Ishvara. You have the snake and bone ornaments, and the lower robe of a tiger skin as well, as a garland of heads and skulls hanging down, and the full complement of Naga adornments and hand symbols. Next, you visualize the 4 elements. At your navel is a lam, from which comes a yellow square earth mandala, marked by a wheel, and on which, on a Kalagni disc, is a yellow hoe. At your heart is a yam, from which comes a black bow-shaped mandala of wind, marked by 2 waving banners, and on which is on a Rahu disc is a black hum. At your neck is a ram, from which comes a red triangular mandala of earth marked by a jewel, and on which, on a sun, is a red ah. At your forehead is a bam, from which comes a round white mandala of water marked by a vase, and on which, on a moon disk, is a white om. The rays of light of the 4 syllables and the light rays of the hum at the heart of the Lama, who is not separate from the principal deity, invite the 4 Vajra deities, which dissolve into the 4 syllables. From a yam under the feet comes a wind mandala that ignites a ram, from which comes a red triangular mandala of fire marked by a ram, and on which, on the 2 soles of the feet, a red Z come to emit light rays. Through being hit by light rays from the heart of the Lama, who is not different from the principal deity Kalachakra, the wind is stirred up, whereby the fire is ignited, due to which the light rays from the Z enter the holes in the feet. The light rays agitate the 4 syllables from which light rays are emitted, filling the entire body. Light rays from the hum at the heart of the Lama, who is not different from the principal deity, invite in all the Buddhas in the form of the supramundane Victor Kalachakra and the king of wrathful ones. All of these, filling the realm of space, enter into your body. The mind is by nature clear light and devoid of true existence, and thus we have a mind that is suitable to achieve enlightenment. It bears down on our expression, meditative stabilization, and faith. Based on the collection of such forces, we will be able to quickly activate such potentiality to enlightenment. Imagine that the blessings that you received are stabilized, and that these in turn are protected by the 6 lineages of method and wisdom. Remember that you have imagined yourself as the wrathful form of Kalachakra, Vajravega, and imagine at your forehead a white Om, at the heart a black Hum, at the crown protrusion a yellow Hum, at the navel a yellow Ho, at the throat a red Ah, and at the secret region a blue Sha. It is in this way that you are protected by the 6 lineages of method and wisdom. Next is asking for the color of the space, for which first of all you should pull down the blindfold on your eyes. And then, when the Lama asks you, what is appearing to your eyes, you should quickly and suddenly pull the blindfold away and look at the space above the mandala. You can open the blindfold and gaze toward the space quickly. What did you see? Any color? In this way, when you suddenly gaze towards the space, sometimes you see different colors, symbolizing different attainments. After that, you again make 3 circumambulations around the mandala, symbolizing different attainments, and then repeat this mantra. Next is expressing the word of truth. The basic meaning of it is that the students are all suitable for enlightenment, but it is by throwing the flowers that the students are able to discover their lineage. When the Lama expresses the word of the truth, you should also reflect on that meaning. May the divine lineage of these students who I enter into this excellent mandala be shown in accordance with their merit. May their feats be shown. May the lineage of which they are vessels be shown. May the measure of the power of their merit be shown as it is in the mandala.
Yeah.
So, the students should determine their particular Buddha lineage by throwing their flowers on the eastern door on our victorious vase. There's also this tradition of throwing the flower on victorious vase and on which the victorious conch. And then there is also the tradition of throwing it on the victorious vase attuned by the 5 victorious lineages. Repeat this longer mantra.
Partiza meza ho, medo ulze. Partiza